Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, I will summarize and analyze the psychological horror movie, A Tale of Two Sisters. As we go along, I will post questions that I will answer in our analysis and explanation section. The film begins with an interview between Soo-Mi and a doctor in a hospital room. The physician shows her a family photo and asks if she remembers them or even knows who she is, but she remains silent. Since Soo-Mi does not want to talk about the photo, the doctor urges her to tell him what happened on that fateful day when she was admitted to the psychiatric hospital. And just like that, we're pulled into Soo-Mi's haunting past with scenes that unfold a new twist that'll leave your mind reeling. Soo-Mi and her younger sister Soo-yeon return to their family's huge, isolated countryside home. As they get inside, their stepmother, Yoon-ju, comes along and greets them. We immediately see that Yoon-ju does not have a loving relationship with her stepdaughters. She hates both of them and makes it known. Her condescension and fake smiles say it all. But why does Yoon-ju hate her stepdaughters? Is this normal with stepfamilies? As the sisters head upstairs, unsettling signs start creeping in. Soo-Mi finds her journal already on the table, even though she hasn't unpacked yet. Weird, right? Her closet surprises her as there are already many clothes similar to the two in her luggage, which she finds disturbing. She just arrived, so who put these clothes here? Yoon-ju prepares sleepwear for Moo-hyun, her husband and the girl's father, but finds out that Soo-Mi already did this. Yoon-ju does not like this competition, so she discards the clothes that Soo-Mi prepared earlier. Dinner is awkward and quiet, with the two girls seemingly not wanting to talk so as not to get their stepmother upset. One can tell that there is severe tension in this relationship. The question is, why? Yoon-ju attempts to break the ice and tells her husband about inviting Soon-kyu and his wife Mi-hee to come over the weekend for dinner, adding that this is an opportune time to get together since the girls are finally back home. The father leaves and tells Yoon-ju to clean up tomorrow if she is feeling tired, but he does not say anything to his daughters. Once Moo-yeon is away, Yoon-ju confronts Soo-Mi about her father's clothes, and an argument breaks out. Soo-Mi learns that it was Yoon-ju who put all the clothes in her closet, along with the journal, and Soo-Mi is having none of it. We can see that Soo-Mi is not afraid of her stepmom, but Soo-yeon cowers in fear. The father comes back and lays 2 tablets in front of Yoon-ju. Curiously, he does not interfere with his daughter's and wife's argument. This medication is our first hint that there is something wrong with this stepmother. Something terrible. Something disturbing. Soo-Mi leaves the dining table, and Yoon-ju now berates Soo-yeon, telling her to follow her sister upstairs. Soo-yeon leaves without finishing her dinner. Being the older sister, Soo-Mi asks Soo-yeon if their stepmom said anything unkindly, but Soo-yeon denies it. Soo-Mi assures her sister that she will protect her from their stepmom, and Soo-yeon acknowledges this. The next scene takes us to Yoon-ju setting a bird cage outside the house in the evening. She prepares for bed, and Moo-hyun lies beside her, but decides later on to sleep on the couch. That night, the sound of footsteps wakes Yoon-ju up. The same sound rouses Soo-yeon, and she is horrified to see her bedroom door open on its own. She ignores it, but someone pulls her blanket. Gathering her courage, she looks. No one's there, but footsteps echo in the hall. She goes to Soo-Mi, who dismisses the noise, saying it's just her nerves for being away for too long. But when Soo-yeon says that someone went to her room, Soo-Mi decides to investigate downstairs, where she finds the TV on and her father asleep on the couch. As Soo-Mi adores her father, Yoon-ju appears behind her and says not to bother him, sparking another argument between them. Soo-Mi goes to the refrigerator for water, only to find rotting fish, which makes her squeal. Yoon-ju hears this but does nothing and goes back to watching the TV, which has nothing on but static. Soo-Mi goes back to her room and tells Soo-yeon that it was their stepmom who opened Soo-yeon's bedroom door, adding that the house and their stepmother are strange. In the early morning, Soo-Mi dreams of a woman. In this dream, she sees blood on a palm and a hand tapping frenetically. She jolts up, only to see someone creeping on the floor at the foot of the bed. This ghost stands on top of Soo-Mi and bleeds. Just as the ghost is about to attack her, she wakes up, realizing that she had a dream within a dream. Moo-hyun comes into the room and tells her to go downstairs for breakfast. As Soo-Mi stretches, she notices blood on her hand. This blood is from her sister's monthly cycle. Soo-Mi goes to her parents' bedroom to get some sanitary napkins. The noise she makes wakes Yoon-ju up. As Soo-Mi explains that it is Soo-yeon who is having a period, the stepmom implies it is uncanny that she and Soo-yeon get their monthly periods on the same day. Soo-Mi and Soo-yeon clean up the sheets and hang out on the porch, just under Yoon-ju's bird. The sisters think of either killing it or setting it free. They both find it amusing how their stepmom would feel if they messed with her pet bird. Their father arrives and asks Soo-Mi what she is doing out in the cold, telling her that she looks sick. Soo-Mi insists that she is fine and asks her father to get rid of the closet in Soo-yeon's bedroom. Moo-hyun responds and says they have an agreement not to talk about that closet. That afternoon, Soo-Mi walks along a path and hears a young woman humming, but there is no one there. She goes to the abandoned greenhouse and takes a box and a bag. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon opens the cage, and as she attempts to get the bird, something rattles her. Soo-Mi opens the box and finds old photos of her childhood and her family. She then realizes that Yoon-ju, her stepmother, has long been part of their household. But why? Soo-yeon arrives, and Soo-Mi shares some of their late mother's belongings. As Soo-yeon takes some of this stuff, Soo-Mi sees bruises on Soo-yeon's arms. Furious, Soo-Mi demands to know who did it, adamant that it is their abusive stepmother who did this. Soo-yeon screams and leaves, not telling Soo-Mi who hurt her. Soo-Mi confronts her stepmother during snack time, and Yoon-ju admits that it was she who hurt Soo-yeon for disobedience. Soo-Mi asks if their father knows, and Yoon-ju taunts Soo-Mi that their father won't lift a finger even if he knows. Yoon-ju won't stop, as she continues to mentally and emotionally abuse Soo-Mi, telling her that crying over her dead mother's photos will not change things. Moo-hyun hears of this commotion while shaving in the bathroom, but decides not to do anything about it. That night, Sun-kyu and his wife, Mi-hee, visit the family. In a state of excitement, Yoon-ju tells happy stories and memories with them. The problem is that Sun-kyu and Mi-hee do not remember these things at all. Suddenly, Mi-hee begins to cough, and this coughing turns into a fit. A bit later, she stares in horror under the sink. On the way home, she tells Sun-kyu that she saw something under the sink. This is what she saw. Back in the house, Yoon-ju looks at the sink and the cupboard mysteriously opens. She investigates, and as she kneels to see what is under, she realizes from her peripheral vision that a girl is sitting by the dining table. She turns to look, but no one is there. A hair clip mysteriously appears, and as she attempts to take it, a more sinister event takes place. Her husband gives her medication, and she pleads for him to stay with her, claiming that since the girls went home, strange things have been happening in the house. Moo-hyun dismisses this and tells her that she will get better if she rests. Upon her insistence, Moo-hyun investigates but finds nothing in the kitchen. However, he discovers that Yoon-ju's pet bird is dead and disposes of it. Yoon-ju sees this and immediately thinks that it is her stepdaughters who killed her bird. Furious for this disrespect, she rushes to their room only to find the old family photos. Her anger turns to wrath when she sees her images ripped from the photos. Her face is vandalized in the other pictures, and this drives her to a fit of rage. She barges into Soo-yeon's room and finds her dead bird on the bed. This blows her fuse, and she drags and locks Soo-yeon in the closet. Soo-mi wakes up from this commotion, goes to find her sister, and provides comfort. Meanwhile, as Moo-hyun buries the bird, he sees a shadow of a long-haired woman from the second floor. Moo-hyun goes to her daughter's bedroom and confronts Soo-mi, asking why she has been acting so weird. Soo-mi tells her father that Yoon-ju is abusive and that she harasses her sister all the time. It is at this moment that we witness the first plot twist.
수연이는 이미 죽었어. 이젠 정신 차려, 수미.
Soo-mi refuses to accept this and tells Soo-yeon that it is not true. Soo-yeon screams and screams. The movie shifts to the next scene, where we hear Moo-hyun speaking to someone on the phone, asking that person to come to the house tomorrow because he cannot handle the situation alone. That afternoon, Yoonju drags a blood-soaked sack down the hallway. She beats the sack with a stick, and this wakes Soo-Mi up. Soo-Mi looks for Soo-yeon but cannot find her. Downstairs, she discovers a trail of blood and a bloody sack. Fearing it might be her sister, she frantically attempts to untie it. Meanwhile, we see Yoonju drinking water, exhausted from what she has done. As Soo-Mi rummages through the kitchen drawers, she sees a vision of herself drinking medication and beating the sack with a stick. This confuses her, and she goes back to the sack only to find that it is gone. Following the trail of blood, she finds the sack in Soo-yeon's closet. But Yoonju comes behind her, threatening her with a kettle full of boiling water. Soo-Mi defends herself and stabs Yoonju with a pair of scissors. They fight, and Yoonju manages to trip Soo-Mi, causing her to bump her head and lose consciousness. Soo-Mi comes in and out of her consciousness, during which she is being dragged on the floor, where Yoonju drops her and drags a heavy statue. When Soo-Mi finally wakes up, Yoonju says that this must end. Yoonju lifts the statue, and just as she is about to drop it, the door opens and we see Moo-hyun enter the house. Moo-hyun sees Soo-Mi unconscious, with the statue in 1,000 pieces around her. He carries Soo-Mi to the sofa, where she wakes up. It is here that we see Soo-Mi is wounded in her right hand, the very place where she stabbed Yoonju. Moo-hyun gets some medicine and sees a doll with a broken head inside a sack. He finds Yoonju in the living room, who appears confused. Yoonju asks him where Soo-Mi is, but Moo-hyun tells her to just stop it and that he is sick of it. A car arrives, and it must be the person that Moo-hyun was talking to on the phone the previous day. He leaves Yoonju alone. A few moments later, the door opens. The visitor arrives, and it is It is at this moment when we realize that Yoonju is actually Soo-Mi. This second plot twist reveals many things. It was Soo-Mi who dragged the sack to the hallway. Inside, it is a doll, not Soo-yeon. Soo-Mi killed the bird, and it was also her at the dinner table with Soon-kyu and Mi-hee. At night, Soo-Mi lies on her father's bed, thinking that she is Yoonju. Soo-Mi is the recipient of the pills that her father prepares, not Yoonju. Finally, we see that Soo-Mi was actually alone going home. Soo-yeon was not with her, as she was already dead at this time. What is the meaning of all this? Soo-Mi suffers from dissociative identity disorder, which means her mind has created multiple personalities to cope with her trauma. Her brain built a whole other version of Yoonju, one that reflects her deepest fears. Usually, dissociative mental disorder develops after severe trauma, and the movie tells us how this happened. In the past, when Soo-yeon was still alive, the sisters suspected that their father was cheating on their mom with Yoonju, their biological mother's nurse. It is why there are photos of Yoonju with their family. Yoonju was cruel to them, even when their mom was still alive. One day, Soo-yeon found her mother inside her closet, dead. The movie does not disclose why their mother deleted herself, but we can assume that it is out of depression. Soo-yeon pulled her mother's body in an attempt to save her, but the whole closet fell on her. Everyone in the household heard the crash, but it was Yoonju who went to investigate. Upstairs, she saw the state of Soo-yeon struggling under the weight of the closet, but decided not to help. She went downstairs, had a change of heart, and was about to tell Soo-Mi about the incident. However, Soo-Mi's confrontational behavior made Yoonju change her mind. Yoonju did not tell anyone what she saw. While Soo-yeon was dying upstairs, Soo-Mi walked out of the house as Yoonju looked on, leaving Soo-yeon to die with her mother. Although the movie does not show it, we can assume that these terrible incidents led to Soo-Mi blaming herself for the death of her beloved sister. If she had not confronted Yoonju, they would have saved Soo-yeon. Because of her guilt and shock, she developed a mental disorder, which forced her father to institutionalize her. In the present day, Moo-hyun and the real Yoonju decide to put Soo-Mi back in the mental institution, as Soo-Mi would be in better care there. At home, Yoonju hears noises on the second floor, which she looks into. She goes to Soo-yeon's room, where all these terrible things began. The closet opens, and as Yoonju gets closer, Soo-yeon's ghost appears. Soo-yeon's ghost takes Yoonju's life for retribution. At the hospital, Soo-Mi sheds a tear, telling us that she has finally come to terms with her sister's and mother's tragic deaths. Now, let us answer the questions I posted along the way, and a few more that most people find confusing about the movie. How come there is a duplicate journal? There is no duplicate journal. The main story, which is all in Soo-Mi's mind, is an alternate reality that her mind made up to feed the conflict between her and Yoonju. The clothes in the closet are also not real. Why did Soo-Mi prepare her father's clothes? At this time, Soo-Mi has two personalities, one of Soo-Mi and one of the imaginary Yoonju. It was Soo-Mi who put on the two sets of clothes, but she is not aware she did it. What is the significance of this closet? It is where their mother took her own life. This same closet fell on top of Soo-yeon, which resulted in her death. What rattled Soo-yeon when she was about to open the cage? Nothing. Soo-yeon is not real. This scene is what we call a red herring. How come Moo-hyun won't defend his children against his stepmom? There is nothing to defend. Soo-yeon and Yoonju in the main storyline are the imaginations of Soo-Mi. Soo-yeon died a while ago, and the real Yoonju is not even in the house. The real Yoonju only arrives close to the end of the movie when they have no choice but to take Soo-Mi back to the psychiatric facility. Who is the ghost? There are two ghosts. One is the ghost of Soo-yeon. This is the same ghost wearing a green dress in the kitchen. The other one, I suspect, is their mother. Who stabbed Soo-mi's hand? Soo-mi stabbed her own hand. The fight between her and Yoonju is imaginary. Where is the body in the sack? There is no body in the sack. Soo-yeon died from an accident, not murder. The scene where Yoonju drags the sack both did and did not happen. In Soo-mi's mind, Yoonju killed Soo-yeon by beating her up in the sack. But in reality, it was Soo-mi who dragged the sack with a doll in it. Was Soo-mi cured of her disorder? Soo-mi came to terms with the death of her sister. However, there is no cure for dissociative identity disorder. Medications can help manage the symptoms, but there is no absolute cure. Who dragged Soo-mi in the hallway? Nobody dragged Soo-mi in the hallway. People who suffer from dissociative identity disorder enter a state called fugue, a state or period of loss of awareness of one's identity. Sometimes they do things that they do not remember. During that state, the other personality takes over. So what do you think? Did A Tale of Two Sisters leave you haunted too? Leave your theories or questions in the comment and see you next week. Want more content like this? While it may not mean much to you, a simple like or subscribe means a lot to us. Hit that subscribe button for a chillingly good time every week.